How you doing? How you doing? How you feeling? Happy Monday.
Sometimes you say, how you doing? And I be sitting here like I'm waiting for somebody to actually respond.
I know. I was like, it got mad quiet. Right. You keep talking.
We just like, oh, okay, whenever you're done.
How y'all feeling? Happy Monday. Welcome to Carlie's Couch. Dun, dun, dun. Hit him. What's going on, Lex?
So today we have a special guest, our second guest on the podcast.
Oh, the second guest, huh?
Yeah.
Second guest.
Maybe we'll bring you back for like 102 or something epic.
Ooh.
You never know. But we have Mr. Trey Brown in the
Trey Brown in the building. What's up, Trey?
I feel like we should be like, ah.
Exactly.
Right.
But I don't even really know him like that yet, so we'll see how I feel if I'm as enthusiastic at the end.
Okay. So you might. You probably don't remember this, but this is about.
Oh God, you can be like I saw it somewhere.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, why not?
Why does this always happen to
Go
me?
ahead. Let's go, Trey.
So this is like a year ago, almost. About a year ago, and there was like a Blacks in Tech gathering at the Snapchat offices, right over in Venice. So I just remember walking in.
I remember that.
Right, yeah. So I remember walking in. I got there late, but I remember walking in and just seeing you, and then there's a couple other people that I knew.
The sun was shining. The birds were singing.
Yeah, but see, it wasn't even like that though. She looked so mad. I was like, you know, I was like, I don't even know. Like, should I say hello right now?
I always look angry,
mad as hell. So I was like, nah. But I remember seeing you, and then when I saw that you were friends with Carlie, I was like, oh, okay, damn. Well, you know, she's the homie, you the homie.
No, I definitely at all times have resting bitch face, and I never am like smiling. But I always looks like I have an attitude, but I don't necessarily. But that's interesting. Were you there for the whole thing?
No, I was there for like the last hour. So everybody was talking. We had some beer, and it wasn't like the main Snapchat office. It was like one of the satellite ones, right? And so I just was networking.
I'm asking because I remember we were like during that evening we were like all outside on like the patio at one point, like going around the circle. And all that.
Yeah, I was there for that.
You did?
I showed up right before we did that. And then I was talking about what I did. But this was like younger entrepreneur Trey, and it was trying to figure this shit out, like elevator speech and all that other stuff. But there was some good companies there though. I remember, or startups. I remember that. So,
yeah. Oh, that's cool. And that's funny because that happens. Yo, we were at
Vector. I don't even go nowhere around here.
Yeah, right.
We were at Vector 90 and someone walked up and was like, hey, Lex, I remember you. And she's looking at me like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, what?
But didn't you, I mean, because now that I'm thinking about it though, you had like, because I didn't tie it all together, but you had like a whole Instagram like setup, right? Or am I wrong about that?
What does that mean, Instagram setup?
Like for, okay. Yeah, I know.
No,
right?
I'm really just asking.
So like,
no,
like a professional, like sort of social media marketing thing going on, right? Was that you?
My work?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm assuming it was. I mean.
Oh, you're talking about like I presented something?
No, you would on Instagram, you would like have on the videos and whatnot, right? You would basically draw what it was you were doing each day, and you would kind of like give tips. And
when I was writing my goals out, maybe you talking about?
Could be.
You're just talking about like my regular content on Instagram.
Yeah, just the content you were producing, and it was an everyday thing. And this is before everybody else was like really like doing this shit consistently.
Yeah. Okay, I thought you were talking about like I presented something. I'm like, I did.
No, not like that.
Cool.
I was just like,
yeah.
It's small. I'm telling you, like the Black tech community is small as hell. So
it is
very small.
You're right about that because anytime I've gone to stuff out here, I do end up seeing them again. And what we've kind of mentioned in other conversations and other episodes too is that it's different. Like I moved to LA from the DC area, and it's such a difference in like what a young Black professionals, like what the community looks like here. Because there it's like, you know, government and all this and that. Here it's like
I went to Howard, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's just different.
I know exactly what you're
so it's been hard for me to find like, all right, where's the group? And maybe it doesn't have to be a group, but you know what I mean? Like where's the community of like Black people in tech? And like, what are they doing? Where like I don't ever see many people like speaking or doing conferences, stuff like that. And you know, I've still been trying to find what that looks like. And then I've had a couple weird experiences too with some people out here. So it's just like, all right, like somebody just let me know when there's a conference or something to go to, or like the Tech Cypher that had just passed.
So where were you at then?
I was at Complex Con.
Okay.
But you see, half of Carlie's couch was there. We good. We good over here.
I'm not mad at you for that. I went last year. It was popping.
Yeah, Carlie represented.
And I even shouted you out when I was there and your company.
Oh, you did? Oh, God bless. God bless.
For sure.
Cool.
But I think that's so interesting. People think LA is so big, like no matter what you're doing, but you move out here and you start realizing everybody knows everybody and all your circles are connected
everywhere.
in different ways. It does.
If you're somewhere more than a year, everybody's like, oh, this city's too small.
Like, I mean, yeah.
So it's really, I mean, in my experience, in my opinion, because I was in D.C. too before this, right? So in my experience, what it is being young, black, and educated, like we tend to think that it's a larger pool than it really is. And it's not that large. It's really not that big in comparison to everybody else.
Yeah,
like,
it's not.
It's really not. So you can go from, New York to L.A. and really, it's the same experience, right? Where it's like, everybody knows you. And then if you have a little bit of profile on Instagram or Snap or whatever, people know you. They might not even know your name,
but they know
me all the time, off of some social media.
But they know your
they
when you're
know.
out and they know your like Instagram name and they call you by your Instagram name.
Yeah, see, now I don't deal. I'm not with that though. You know what I mean? Like, like you call me, like my handle is Tech Chef Curry, right? So somebody's like, "Hey, Tech Chef Curry," I'm gonna be like,
first of all, that's too much to be
come
calling
on,
out,
bro.
anyway.
Exactly, right?
too
Like,
much.
come on, bro. Did you really?
You're going out of your way to do that.
You
one.
really
You just
did
being
that?
extra.
You're going out
Yeah.
of your
So
way.
I mean, I get it, but I understand people have fans and everything. Like, for example, so
Fans.
I mean, it's true though, because like
my real people that I know, not from social media, like they even call me like shortened names of my @ name. Like, so mine is like Lextopia. So I have people be like, Tope or Lex Tope.
Awkward.
yeah, see, that's
people just call me like that.
That right there.
That's how I know people who don't know me. They call me Cece. Nobody who actually knows me calls me.
But
Cece.
I'm talking about my real friends. Like they call me like Tope now.
Yeah.
They like Lex Tope. What's up?
Well, that's good. I mean, that's good though, I guess, because now, right? Like you're growing, your fan base is like expanding. Like I said, I was a fan of what you were doing before. I wasn't like on. No, I mean for real though. Like I mean, it's real because it's like you got young black people doing stuff. Like if that's you need to support that at all times, right? So and I get you with the LA thing because it gets mixed in. The thing that is
it's
unique,
real mixy.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's like, is this a meeting? Or are we just at the club? Like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, like with LA is kind of different. But like I said, if I see a young black person doing something that's like positive and trying to promote that, I mean, how could you not support? You know what I mean? Especially on social, like that's nothing. A follow, a view,
in a
like,
very genuine
on,
way. Especially when they're pushing their stuff. We were just talking, like we were having a conversation about connecting people and resources and trying to help everybody make it. Like, I always say, like, don't tell me what you're doing for yourself. Tell me what you're doing for other people.
Right.
Like rising tides.
Right.
Let's raise all these ships.
Wait, so let's backtrack a little bit because Trey done came in already and started preaching and everything. And Carlie, you know him a little bit more than I do. I just met him today.
Yeah.
But I want Carlie to introduce our guest officially, and then let's get to asking you some questions and seeing what's going on in your life.
Interrogation, good cop, bad cop. I'm clearly the good cop.
Let's do it.
Clearly.
I mean, Lex just got out of jail, so we'll talk about that later. So,
damn.
We were talking about supporting amazing people doing things, amazing black people doing things, entrepreneurs. I met Trey. I was his TA. Actually, at USC, and he was in master. Is in or was in master.
Yeah, I mean, I got one class left. I'm graduating.
Yeah, look, he was like,
I don't even. I'm like, I can't even talk with the new class, right? Because we learned everything. And I'm like, yo, I can't. Y'all taking too long to come to this understanding and shit. You know what I mean? Like, I can't.
So he got one class. He getting too big for y'all.
Right.
But I met Trey at USC. Being his TA, and there's still not a lot of black people in a lot of the master's programs. And
not at all.
Yeah, and so, just got to support.
What was this program? Like just overall MBA or a specific?
No. So it's entrepreneurship and innovation, right? And my
that's
focus,
your program too, Carlie?
I got my MBA, but it's all under the Marshall School of Business. They have different masters. They have the MBA, Masters of Entrepreneurship and Innovation, social entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So what I wanted to do was I got my certification in like tech commercialization. So that's what I went there for, right? Like trust me, like I have a shit ton of respect for MBAs because it's not easy. Like it doesn't matter where you go, it's not easy. And so for me though, it was kind of like I wanted to learn the entrepreneurial ins and outs and get the network. So that's what I was really there for.
It's interesting that you say that because in the last episode, I told a story about a young lady who hit me about wanting me to be her mentor, and she was asking me, well, I want to do a whole career change, like from performative arts to marketing / everything's kind of tech now,
right.
but being an entrepreneur. And so she was like, well, I want to go to get an MBA. And I'm like, so I want to ask you, since you just recently, well, you're still finishing
one class,
since you're kind of almost done.
Yeah.
What would your advice be on that? Like, do you think if somebody wants to be an entrepreneur, you really need to go do all that, pay that money, get an MBA?
No, I personally, I don't.
That's what I kind of said too.
Yeah.
I was like, you're not... To learn it and then have to apply it later is way different than you jumping in and like I'm learning it while I can apply it and do it.
Yeah. See, for me, it's like this. Like and Carlie, we've talked about this hundreds of times, right? For me, I'm a confident young black male, straight up. But I also am humble enough to know that at where I am, I don't know shit. Right?
There's always more information.
Yeah,
out there.
like you could act like you know everything, and that's cool. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you're the smartest person in the room,
you in the wrong rooms.
Yeah, you're in the wrong rooms, right? You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, okay, there's a fine line between getting formal education and then getting knowledge and feasibility knowledge, right? Like a lot of people in our community, in my experience, they have an entrepreneurial spirit and they know how to like hustle, but the hustle is not entrepreneurship. Like it's not the same thing. It's an aspect of entrepreneurship, but you need to understand feasibility, stuff like that. I really didn't have an understanding of that. I just was like, you know what? I have a knack for good ideas and concepts, and like that's, let me foster that. But I only got that feasibility training at SC.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, all right, if I can do something for somebody that makes it so that they don't have to go through SC, because it's really simple stuff. It's not like you need to be a rocket scientist to understand this, but you do need to have access to the knowledge. So, I don't think getting an MBA is necessarily going to help you with that. It's more so like it adds to the title. Like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But
and it opens some doors in the sense like whenever people know you have an MBA, it's kind of a thing. But it's what he said, it's access. You may not think it is, but hold on, but it is in the sense that like, for certain job requirements, like that's the way the structure is until we disrupt that structure and show that that's not necessarily.
I'm not saying like I think
needed.
It can help to have an MBA, but for example, this girl has been like on stages her whole life. So for her to get an MBA, you're not gonna get a job off of you went to school and you have no experience.
And what
I
was gonna say, even in my MBA program, I want to say 2%. And USC is like an entrepreneurial hub. Like we have Launchpad, like Blackstone Launchpad. We have all those things. It was like 2% of us are entrepreneurs. Like I was like in the very small minority. But what I was gonna say is the programs that Trey is talking about, just creating that access and helping her access that information, that's way more valuable than her going to do an MBA. I think it's necessary. Like if she had been in accounting and now she wants to turn and do marketing, that's a good pivot point. Like to go in and to learn and to get connected with those companies because it's about the network. But yeah,
that's
for
what
that,
I told her.
she
I told
don't
her
need
the
that.
biggest pro I would think would be the networking and just the access to when you're talking to people who are in it, like the teachers and the events they put on for you to go to.
And
but
question.
I'm like, yo, you can kind of also make that happen. Like I'm also a believer that you should be able to get a degree from how many YouTube videos you watch on the subject. Like
I
honestly,
believe you should too. YouTube
like what's
University
the difference
is real.
between my school?
They can have Udemy,
that?
I think, right? And you
like,
get a certification
like that
doing that.
You should
They
be able to get a
should.
BA in whatever, especially computer science tech stuff that's always changing. Like by doing a certain amount of courses and like showing your proficiency.
You should, and I think showing the proficiency is a big thing. I know a lot of people with degrees who don't do it or don't use it or actually aren't proficient, and that's when it's pointless.
Right.
But to
Definitely
circle
agree
back,
with that, though.
I just wanted to say, so I met Trey being his TA, but the reason why we wanted him to be a guest and why I was like talking to Lex about it.
We wanted him to be a guest, or he forced himself upon us on LinkedIn.
I think it was
and
a
on
mix.
text.
It was
I
a
think
mix
it was
of
a
both.
mix. I ain't
It
gonna
was a
lie.
mix of both,
I was
but
like, Carlie,
You
who's
gotta
this
push.
man?
You gotta push for what you want. You gotta push for what you want. You can't
ask
just. You
for what
can't
you
just be
want.
like, I'm gonna leave it up to everybody else.
I
See
know
what
that's
happens.
right.
yeah, because he asked me and I was like, yeah, cool, I'll talk to Lex. Then he asked Lex and then I saw him again. He was like, yo, but the reason why we decided on it is like your hunger. You're not afraid to ask those questions. You're not afraid to talk. Like even in class, Trey would be asking all the questions to any of the guests we had, going up and talking to them afterwards, like always making his presence known and not being afraid to ask questions and put himself in those situations. And I think that's important. And also to kind of learn a little bit about your journey through entrepreneurship.
It's a long, tough conversation to have. But
And it's so funny because we are in our, well, you're about to be 30, Carlie, but like
How old are you, Trey?
I'm 30.
He's
Okay.
30, I'm 33, Carlie's 29, right? And then we're sitting here like, it's a long, tough. And like that long, tough journey is because like every week feels like a damn
Every
year,
day.
like almost. So
day.
it does feel like that. So it's interesting that you say that, like it's long and tough. But what I want to ask you about first is not even necessarily like every little detail about like from the beginning to end, but just first of all, what have you done? Are you an entrepreneur? What did you do? What are you doing? Just overall as a base.
Yeah. So I think I started my entrepreneurial journey for real, with my brother, Don, right? So this is 2014, and this is before Apple released the skin color or toned emojis, right, inside of their system, Android as well. And so, I just got out of Howard. Or actually, I was working at Howard at the time. I was doing their digital strategy, right? And so I was like, okay, there are no black emojis. Why are there no black emojis? I don't know, but like, why do we have to sit and wait for them to create it? Can we do it? So I talked to a friend of mine. He was like, yeah, he actually was a product manager. His name is Marcus, and he basically put me on game. And I was like, okay, cool. It's doable. Yeah, great. Okay, let's do it. So we did it. It was called Weemojis. It came out. We got over like 500,000 downloads.
Nice.
And yeah, so it was cool. And then we actually got a bunch of signatures that helped to push for the multiple skin color tones, right? And so that's where it started.
From Apple?
Yeah, from Apple.
Ooh, okay, I have two questions. I'm gonna write them down so you can finish your story.
No, go ahead. Yeah. So the thing about it is that at first we were still trying to figure out like how do we make money, how do we monetize, right? Because we didn't know any of that. So we were like, all right, we're gonna monetize by trying to get brands involved and stuff like that, and then maybe charge for the app. So we started charging for the app, made a nice chunk of change, I'd say, and then Kimojis came out. Right. And so Kimojis like proved the model times 1,000, right? Like she didn't really break the Apple store or anything like that or the App Store, but she did get like millions of downloads. And she charged out the gates was like 99 cents. So I was like, this is crazy because my brother and I both knew that these emoji keyboards actually didn't work inside social media. So if you go look at Kimojis right now, you go in the App Store, you see a shit ton of like negative reviews talking about, this is why I can't use it, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, yo, that's where the money is. Like that's where the money is because people use social media to reflect their native experiences, right? And so if you can integrate emojis into that and provide utility, now you're talking about money, right? Yeah. So then I moved to LA. I was like, I'm just going to jump into this entrepreneurial shit. Horrible decision. I did love moving to LA, but I just didn't have the tools at the time to really sort of like figure out how I'm going to achieve such a large feat, right? Like this is big stuff. Like you can't just get Snapchat and Instagram and these guys to really like integrate what it is you're trying to do. So, I just started going to events, right? And so I went to like that Blacks in Tech event. I would go to any event that I could, be a part of. And so as a result, I started meeting more people, linking with more people. And everywhere that I went, I kept seeing the same people, right? And I was like, yo, I've heard people talk about success happening that way, right? Like where you run into the same people and it's not like you're stagnant, but you're all excelling or you're growing. So I was like, all right, I think I'm on the right path. But a good friend of mine, Bobby, who's also from Detroit, he was like, I saw him at the Dime, right? And he was like, yo, you should get into the MSCI program at USC. And I was like, what is this? Like, just another degree?
So you moved, hold on, Rook. So you moved out here before you even applied to the MSCI?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Oh, yeah. Because I was
so
like...
you just figured this was the place to be.
Yeah, I was like, if I'm trying to do at like San Francisco, it's too expensive, number one.
Man, for real.
Number two, like, it's kind of crowded, and I knew that the landscape in LA was changing.
Yeah.
So Silicon Beach was forming, right? Like, and I was like, okay, this might be a place I can get in early. So I made the jump. And then, so like I said, so Bobby put me on the MSCI program, and I was like, okay, that's something I think I need. Like, I need to hone my entrepreneurial skills. I need to gain more understanding.
What does MSCI stand for exactly?
So it's Masters of Science in Entrepreneurship and Innovation. Right?
Okay, what we were saying earlier.
Right, okay. Exactly. So then I remember the first day, Carlie's in the back. I'm like, yo, who is this? Like, she's all chummy with the professor. I'm like, oh, she must be like a superstar or something. Like, so
you thought she was your competition, don't you lie?
Nah, definitely not. Nah. Because honestly, when I get into situations like that,
ask the most questions.
We'll get to that later. But when I, so she was talking to him, and then I remember getting there and just realizing like, I'm in the right place. Like,
that's a good feeling too.
Yeah.
When you're like, yo, dots are like connecting right now.
Right. You know, so I started, learning and growing from there. And so then in October, I think of that same semester, it's been a year now, I pitched at this competition called the Global Venture Summit. And I won, right? So it was like a $50K prize. Like, I was on top of the world. I'm like, oh shit, I don't even know what I'm gonna do with this $50K.
I'll
be honest. I mean, I knew on paper, but when you win, you know what I'm saying? You're like, yo, what? Like, I really won. So I won that, and then I started progressing, going through sort of learning and working at the same time, right? Like going to class, applying kind of what I learned in class, what I learned there to my startup. And then I got the partnership with Kik, which is a top 10 social media chat app. They have about 15 million monthly active users.
Oh, wow.
And that was like straight hustle. That was like me. At this point, I'm like a LinkedIn warrior, as y'all know. So
I get everything off LinkedIn. Like, people be sleeping on LinkedIn.
They do. They don't be utilizing it correctly.
Listen, it's like people really don't understand how valuable a tool is. Like, if you're going to invest in anything and you're talking about investing in yourself, invest in LinkedIn, because it's like it can get you tangible results very quickly if you know what you're doing. So like I said, so I reached out to them, got the partnership. I was able to get the rights to do integrated sports emojis inside of the Kik platform, right? Smart. So this was like the first time that sports emojis had ever been integrated into social media, right? Ever. So we did that, and the numbers skyrocketed. We got like a 3,200% increase in downloads, right? So we're like, oh, this is really something that can work. Like, this is not just a pipe dream. And so now we're at the point where we've done stuff with Baron Davis, we've done stuff with USC and one other brand. And what we're looking to do at this point, because I've learned all of this stuff, is to basically copyright the code. Copyright the code, and once we do that, then we can approach a Snapchat or a Facebook because of the climate. Like, the climate back then with social media messaging apps is not what it is now. And it's kind of like Snapchat, not to say that they have their backs to the wall, because it's not really like that, but this stock is at $8 a share. When it started, I know, like 6 months ago, it was like 16.
They had a boom. Yeah.
Right. So our goal is to go in there and say, okay, this works. Now I have feasibility, right? I'm like, not only is this an idea, but this is something that we've proven out. It has traction, and we feel that it can change the way you guys monetize Snapchat from a Google type standpoint, where they can integrate all these branded emojis into other social media messaging platforms and monetize it each time they're used or purchased. And then they have all the data behind that. And so one thing that I realized, again, going to this class, is that they don't buy concepts or ideas, they buy teams. Right? Like, these people buy teams. You got to know what you're doing, because it's kind of like they don't want to waste the time trying to figure out how to do it. If you're an expert at it, which at this point my team and I, I'm comfortable saying that we're experts at this, then it gives you an opportunity to get in. But you just have to provide that real deep ass value proposition for them to really pay attention to you. And so we're like right there, almost at that point. Not there yet.
So right now, you're still with Kik, though?
Yeah. So we still like so. For example, if I do a campaign with the brand, for let's say it's Pepsi, or whatever, in and I shouldn't be saying this, but it doesn't really matter. But so I get. They don't get anything from the campaign that we run inside the platform, right? So if I charge $100,000, right, for a year campaign, then all we get charged for is literally creating the emojis and then integrating them, and then we can do $100,000, which ends up being cheaper, because per download per month is actually more expensive, because our cost per engagement is so much stronger than any other cost per engagement out there, right? Because you're talking about an actual download of an emoji. People usually engage with stuff, but they don't download stuff like that, right? Yeah. So for us, it's like, yo, that's an incredible amount. And the numbers we did with USC is kind of like, you talk about Pepsi or NBA or a brand like that. Anything that has emoji utility, right? And people don't understand how important that is to building a habit-forming product. Is and if anybody gets an opportunity, they should check this book out by Eyal, and it's called How to Build Habit-Forming Products. And so it basically breaks down between triggers, actions, rewards, and investments. So if you can hit each point, then you can build a habit-forming product. And like I said, this is all feasibility, right? Like this guy teaches at Stanford. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like my boys off 7 in Finkel or whatever. Like they don't have access to this information.
Yeah.
Right. So it's about feasibility. Back to what you said, not necessarily formal education. And so that's what's big with me now at this point, which is I want to give back. How do I give back? And it's through feasibility, like letting people know, here's the way you think about your concept. How does it make money? Is it feasible? Can you scale it? If you can do that, you know, sky's the limit. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to backtrack a little bit because there's a couple things that you went over in that story of your entrepreneurial journey that I think it's important for listeners and for anybody who's interested in business ownership or entrepreneurship that we don't just be like, yeah, so we did it.
It's roses.
And I know,
roses
and I noticed, not even, I mean, and we know it's not easy, right? But like, those are the details I think people need. So you were at Howard, and in your story just now, because I wrote it down, you said, so we had this idea, so we did it. And then da-da-da-da-da. Well, so how much, like, did you have a savings, or like, was it a big investment? Like to just say, we did it and we made these black emojis or emojis of color. That's
a good point.
What was that?
Yeah, what does doing it look like?
So what it looks like, is, my whole life has been not my whole life, but most of my life has been my mother, my brother, and myself. So we're like the Three Musketeers, right? Like we're like we're tight. So when I bought the concept to her, she was like, all right, great, because she's always believed in me. Like there's no, and that's the one thing I love about her is that there's no one way to success. But if you know your child and you know like this child is going to be successful, then you foster that, right? So it didn't cost a lot of money. It cost like 3 G's to do the whole thing.
Oh wow!
Right? Yeah, because it was like paying the artist, but we finessed it, so it was like, yo, you'll get paid on the back end.
So it was about
shout out my boy P.
It was always about having somebody design it.
Right, design it, and then we outsourced it. So we outsourced it to India because we had to connect. But for that $3,000, when you think about how much I've gotten in return, like I now have a direct pipeline to these guys. So like I can flip it all types of ways if I want to like do a side hustle and all this other stuff. Yeah. So it's worth that $3,000.
But you said you had to connect. How'd you get your connect?
It's just family connection.
Okay.
Yeah, so you just use your network. And once again, this guy's not like some high, regional. He lives right off, he lives in Playa, right? So like, he was just a family friend who went to Pepperdine, got his, specialization in, I think, product management. And he was like, yeah, I can help you with this team. So I ended up linking with my now CTO.
You already knew what he did ahead of time, or?
No clue.
So that's because that's what we always talk about too, is how it's important that you express like what you do, what you want to be doing, because you never know, like somebody could be walking right past you every day who's like looking for something like that, or you
especially
like to make those connections.
Especially here, So like I said, with him, he hooked me up. He really put me on. He was really like the connect, like everything
to the process.
Everything after that was just me being hungry and wanting to learn, right? Like that's really what fostered all of that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So then also, the next thing I noticed that you said, so we did it.
Yeah.
And then you said we were getting all these signatures because we were pushing for Apple to incorporate emojis of colors.
Right.
So if you had created it, why were you pushing, or what was your thought process behind still wanting Apple to do this? Doesn't that make you put you out of business?
Isn't that
essentially?
competition?
Yeah.
No. So here's the thing. Yes and no. To assume that I'm competition with Apple, right, is like, you know what I mean? Like that's some pious shit. But
what was your thought process?
So my thought process was, okay, if we can get them integrated, right, then maybe it would spur some type of...
Maybe you're on the team or something.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, like honestly, because it was like, wait a minute, you're the guy that did it? Okay, how can we foster the creation of these emojis, right? And then people come to us for everything related to diversity behind emojis. We thought it was a play, right? But then we realized also on top of it, they can't integrate. It's really technical. There's a group of people called the Unicode Consortium, right? So think of them like the mafia of the tech world, like dead ass. Like it's like Yahoo, all SAP, all the big guys, and they sit at a table and they say which emojis can go and which emojis can't.
Oh wow!
Right. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. That's what I'm saying. Like, all of this is discovery, right? Like, this is not something that I knew before. But basically, they have 3 rules, right? So back in the day, we all old enough to remember. Back in the day, when let's say I had an iPhone and I would send my emoji to Droid, it would come up as a box, right? Okay, so that is the Unicode Consortium because Apple and Droid weren't communicating a common standard for happy face to happy face, right? Oh. Right. So that's why even now
it's like happy face to that squished up
to the little weird
Android.
Why does it look so weird?
Exactly.
Why are their emojis melting? Like,
can you help them fix that?
Look. Shit, they gotta listen. They gotta listen. They gotta listen. They gotta listen first. But
y'all emojis suck.
But that's the point. And so they're so bad that if you go on Droid, they have Apple style emojis, which is
they still look weird.
No. So if you
can get
the actual,
you can.
Yeah.
Then why don't they?
No, they do.
Droid users do better.
I mean, no comment on that. No comment on that. But the point being that they control all of that. But there's 3 rules: you can't be a branded emoji, you can't be a celebrity or a personality emoji, and you can't be a deity emoji. So that's why you don't see like Jesus or Buddha, and that's why you don't see Drake on your keyboard. That's why you don't see Pepsi on your keyboard. So for us though, that was an opportunity because we were like, well, wait a minute, social media platforms have their own ecosystem.
Yeah.
So they can do whatever they want to do, right? Because as soon as people think like, oh, when I go to type inside of Snapchat, that's the iOS keyboard. It's not the iOS keyboard. That is Snapchat's keyboard. They control all the data that is sent, received, whatever inside their platform.
Oh, I didn't know that. So that's why social media.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Right. So we were like, well, social media is an engagement-based business model. If you don't have engagement, your platform isn't shit.
Your MySpace.
Right. So, exactly. So, we were like, well, this is perfect. Like, I can't see a bigger or better way to monetize something like this. And so that's how we got to that.
And then when you won that pitch competition, what exactly were you pitching then?
I was pitching Bungie. So I was pitching that exact same thing.
And you never mentioned Bungie before as like the name of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But,
So
that's what you had made when we did it. I'm going to keep saying we did. I'm going to name the episode We Did It.
I like that.
We did it.
All right.
Featuring Trey Brown.
So Wemojis was the first iteration, right? It was the keyboard app, and it was basically something that someone had to go download.
Yeah.
Bungie is integrated branded emojis, right?
Okay.
So all we're doing with Bungie is we're monetizing the virality of emojis.
Okay.
Right? So, they're like, I think 2 trillion emojis are used a year inside social media messaging.
So to make sure I'm clear, sorry, I feel like I'm asking all the questions.
No,
you good.
Cut me off, Carlie, if you need to. But so just to be clear, so could I come to you and say, hey, or is this what would happen, where you would connect with people and say, hey, I run the TV show Blackish. We want to have our own keyboard or our own emojis. Like, can we do a partnership or connect with you to make them? Yeah.
So if they wanted their own keyboard app, then we could do that, right? Because of that guy that I had the relationship with, Santosh. So I can do the keyboard, or if they wanted to integrate into like Kick, then I could do that too.
So we could get some Carlie's couch emojis.
Yeah, I ain't there yet.
What a shame.
But I say yet, though. I say yet. Y'all
gotta remember that. I'm gonna go lose your competition.
Right. When we bring you in for episode 1000,
exactly.
We'll see what's up.
Nice.
Okay. So then getting more into you and outside of just like the entrepreneurial journey.
Right.
Carlie said that you wanted to be the Black Steve Jobs.
Yeah. So I text, let me give some context because that wasn't just.
It's cool though, without the context.
It is, but I want to give some just so how we're thinking through the question is like, I mean, of course we want to talk about entrepreneurship, but I asked her, I was like, okay, well, if you were on an episode, what would you want to talk about? Like, what does that look like for you? And he was like, I want to be the Black Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
So basically, what it means is a master innovator, right? Like a master innovator, and it means really a plethora of different things. But for that, it's master innovator, like taking something that people don't understand and can't see until you put it together, and then people instinctually not gravitate towards it. Yeah. And because I'm in this specific niche like area, that's exactly what we're doing, right? And it's like it's so much money behind it that it's hard for people to understand or see the average person. And it's like that's perfectly fine. That's okay. But when you look back 10, 15 years from now, people will be like, that was a major innovation within the social media, industry or sphere or whatever. People can look back, and that's what I mean, mostly by Black Steve Jobs. The second thing is creating my own shit, right? Yeah. So like if I can create it and then be an example for people to say you can do it. Because a lot of times, even at SC, people were like, look, I know we all want to be Steve Jobs and we want to blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm not listening to shit y'all talking about because I'm going to be the next Black Steve Jobs. Like, and let's say I fail, right? Let's say I fail. Let's say everything went to shit tomorrow. Like, at the end of the day, it's better that I gave it everything I had and was an opportunity that I tried to grab and push for, because that's just who I am. Like I'm not about to like take less or whatever. Like if I believe I can change the world, then I'm gonna try to do just that, And that's in all different types of situations in life. It's not just this. It's the feasibility thing we talk about all the time, because that's a deep one. That's a deep one.
When did you first look into Steve Jobs as far as wanting to, learn more about him?
Yeah, I'd say in college. I was in college. I was at Howard. I was getting my comm degree, and they were talking about like basically radio, TV, film, all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, but what about this mobile device right here? Though? Like I feel like that's gonna be the future. So I started reading up more about Steve Jobs, who he was. And kind of seeing what his vision was and how his thing was. To me, the biggest thing I took away from Steve Jobs was he was able to guide people to complete a task that he couldn't necessarily do himself, but he knew how to get the best out of that person to create what he saw. And that's kind of how I see myself. Like I'm not like a super techie. Like I know my stuff, like according to what I'm doing, right? Like in terms of SDK, API, all that stuff, I know all that. But I'm not like the head developer. I'm not a full stack, but I know how to guide them to get what I'm looking for, right? And the same with the artistry. Like the artistry is super important. Like you have to have
design.
That's like the most important part, because nobody's gonna use it if it's trash. You know what I mean?
And it's so interesting how you'll see somebody go like, instead of just doing like an MVP or like whatever, like they'll do a full scale, and you're like, bro, this makes sense to you and just you, like nobody else.
Right. Yeah, so right. So exactly. So and it takes time to get to that. Like you said, like you can't just do the first one. Like if you go back, honestly, I go back today and I look at Weemojis and I'm like, yo, what
trash.
the hell was I thinking? You know what I'm saying?
But y'all was popping back then.
Oh, but we popping. Nobody cared, right? It was like it was So, but that's how you're on the path to success, right? Like you're doing things, and you can look back and be like, "What the hell was I thinking?" But you're doing it in such a happy, positive way, because like, well, I'm only saying that because I'm here now, right?
Yeah. So I can look back at all my stuff, and I'm like, ooh, that was bad.
All of it,
all of it. Like my first like logos, my first like even contracts I would send out were like mad janky and like
my first
proposals and stuff. Like the design
using
was
like the Word document, like
oh my gosh, it was terrible.
Templates.
Yeah. But and presentation is everything. Like you can sell like $100,000 project almost easier than like $100 one if it just looks nice. Like it could be the same thing.
And it's all about how you sell it. Like we were talking about, that's one of the biggest things they teach in business school is people don't buy the project, they don't buy the thing you're doing, they buy you. And they invest in you. So people could sell you.
They invest in a solution.
A box full of air, but you're more likely to get money if you are well designed and have all of that.
I bought this air from Nepal.
Exactly.
You know
And
like,
somebody's gonna buy that.
Exactly. Like on the water boy, like the water from the Arctic.
Little boy who put the paper clip into like a Ferrari or some shit on eBay. Like people will buy stuff.
They'll buy it.
Yeah, go hard.
So now that you've described more about like Steve Jobs, like him being a visionary and like master innovator, something that really stood out was you're talking about his relationships with people and how he was able to connect with people and help them like build his vision even when he couldn't.
Yeah.
And so can you tell us about some of your relationships, like in pivotal relationships and how they've affected like your journey in business?
Because Steve Jobs was an asshole.
Yeah, dog.
So when she said that, the first thing I thought about was, well, a lot of people said it's not just inspiring. He was creating like fear in his teams and, you know, he was very harsh and this or that. Yeah. And so I wondered if you also identify with that as well.
Nah. No.
Or if people might be intimidated or see that out of you or something.
So here's the thing. Some people can be intimidated, but that comes from a variety of different factors, like depending on who you're talking to. Like if I'm talking to a person who is utterly confident in what it is they bring to the table, their skills, whatever, they're not threatened. You know what I mean? Like now, if you ask me, am I the most patient person? The answer is no. Why? Because if you're the most patient person, chances are you're not going to win. Like, and that's just my opinion. Like the most patient. I didn't say don't have any patience, but if you're just sitting, waiting, time is going to pass you by. And that other person who didn't wait, that went out and got it, right? They're going to win. So that's how I look at it. Steve Jobs, in my opinion, was as much of an asshole, I think, for this reason. It was because he had to do so much people managing, like or people management, that if that is what you're being consumed with all the time, after a bit, like in your personal life and all, like you're gonna need to vent out, right? And so I think you saw a lot of that with Steve because think about it. I'm running Apple. First of all, I think he had Kanye syndrome. They kicked me out, right? Like they kicked me out first off. Then I do DreamWorks, right? And then or Pixar, and then I come back, I've made that a success, and they want me back. Like I'm only gonna have so much patience for what y'all got to tell me, because first I didn't have it right, now I have it right. I know I have it right. So what we're gonna do is what I say we're gonna do because you brought me back to do this. Now that's his job. That's what he was put there to do. I'm not saying that he was the nicest person, right? I consider myself to actually be pretty cool, like down to earth. But then again, like certain people will probably look at things that I've said or done and be like, yo, he's an asshole. And guess what? That's fine with me.
How important is tact?
I think tact is important. I think that sometimes it's overrated because at the end of the day, it's about a result, right? So like if you look at Kobe Bryant, you look at Michael Jordan, like if you look at a lot of these great people, like tact is there, right? Because they do it. They do it with the media. They do it with players and all that stuff. But sometimes tact can slow down the end result. And so, you have to balance that out. It's about weighing things out, right? Like tact is like when people say the word tact and they're just like tact. It's one word. And then they but life is not one.
Too much of that is dependent on the other factors, the other person.
Yeah.
It's not
like even
vacuum.
how like you said, like I look like I was mean as hell. Like I can't, like that's not me. That's just what it was, right? So it's how other people are gonna perceive that and how they're gonna respond, which is really a reflection of their own whatever. So you can't let that bother you. But I think it's interesting because in a lot of the startup culture now and the Google culture, like there's this like we want everybody to feel good and like meditation room. Not that there's anything wrong with the meditation room, so maybe that's not a good example. Nah. But like free everything, here's free food. Like everybody just be happy, work from home, work wherever.
Yeah.
But there is research that shows like those happier employees and happier people
more productive.
Kind of at the end of the day get more done versus you being like yapping at people or I need this right now or whatever. So like I think there's still some balance.
And people are very different. Like certain people need those people. Even being a personal trainer,
find the environment that works for
some
you,
people like to get yelled at and do all those things. It's tact, but
yeah, I like to get yelled at.
I totally agree. Like I feel like at the end of the day, there are all these factors. One is pay. Right? So if you're not paying people shit and you yelling and it's a lot of companies
paying
out
everything because you'll be miserable getting paid the most and getting yelled at though.
No, I get you, but it's just kind of like, if I'm getting 100,000 and being yelled at versus 40,000 being yelled at, right? There's that difference. And then the last piece to me would be like I said, the overall culture. Like usually when you get to that point where you can hand out like free snacks and shit like that, you made it. You know what I'm saying? You raised the A round. You know what I mean? Things are a little bit more comfortable. Now, if you in my position, right, where you like, yo, I'm very confident we're gonna get to an A round. I think it'll happen in the near future. But I think, we're on
can't
deadline.
afford to be cool.
No, I'm not. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, bro, we got to make this happen, and otherwise it ain't gonna happen.
And so I guess what's important is for you to have the right people around you who get that and who are on the same page as that.
Exactly, and communication, like knowing up front that that's how it is.
100%.
So then, with your relationships, then throughout the years, what is it about you like that you would say you've learned from? Because part of what you said you wanted to talk about was, like things that you've learned from your relationships along the way.
And mistakes.
So like what was that? What are those experiences?
Okay, so when I first moved here, I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time, right?
At the time or now?
No, I mean, ex-girlfriend, just period.
Okay.
just period. So
but she was your girlfriend then?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Cool girl, very, but once again, I think she's actually about your age. So she was older than me. So like I met her when I was like 26, right?
Okay.
Not the most mature guy, you know what I'm saying? Just like whatever, just being out here, just doing whatever. Really being stupid
Let
about
that
my
LA
shit.
life get you.
really
being mixy out here.
Really being stupid about my shit, right?
Out here being mixy.
And so, I realized that during my entrepreneurial journey, looking back at it, people take entrepreneurship and they kind of make it an excuse for not doing other shit, right?
Often.
Right. And so, I was responsible for doing that, right? And I didn't bring to the table what I needed to as a young man in a relationship with her, right? And so I learned from that deep because it was like, yo, I'll never be in that position again. I remember moving in with her, like I remember doing all of that. And honestly, she had all the power in the situation. So she could just be like, nigga, you ain't shit and all that, all of that, right? And because, once again, I was raised by my mother, so I'm never going to get like out of hand. But after a minute, it's like, yo, I needed to exit that situation. I did. It was the right decision to make, but I learned from that. And what I learned most was like, yo, no matter what you're doing, like, just make sure you're handling your shit at home, whatever it is you're doing. Just handle your shit at home. Because if you don't, and you just get consumed by the entrepreneurial hustle and grind, it'll eat you up. It'll eat you up. You know what I'm saying? And other parts of your life will suffer. So, that was one of the things that I learned with personal relationship. Everything else.
Can I ask a question about that, though?
Yeah, I have one, too.
Oh, here we go.
Okay,
Here we go. See, I opened the door. I opened the door for this one.
But this is what we want to talk about, right? Because we want to get deeper into, like, the emotional awareness about stuff, too.
Right.
And so looking back at that, is your conclusion, hey, I wasn't ready for a relationship, or was it that you should have been better in the relationship? Were you in a space where you should have just been more focused on the entrepreneur stuff?
No, I should have been better at I should have been better at the relationship.
So you think you could have did both?
I could have been at this point at third, I should have been a better man in the relationship, if that makes any sense, right?
That makes sense.
I can say that with complete confidence because I know, like, you know what? And even on entrepreneur journey, it helps you look back at your mistakes. I wasn't doing enough. I could have done more, and as a result, the relationship suffered. Whether it would have still been going on or not, I don't know. You know what I mean? But
so if that's a lesson learned, was it really the entrepreneurship stuff, or did you have personal stuff that was keeping you from stepping up?
Nah, I was entrepreneur.
Okay.
Because how do I explain this? Like this Weemojis, Bungee, all that stuff like that was what I loved to do, right?
Yeah.
So I was giving that more love and attention than I was giving her. And so that was the reason why. You know what I'm saying? It could have very well been another reason, but I don't know. You know what I'm saying? No, but for real, because I don't know, real. Because that is what I was focused on.
Yeah.
So it could have been like, yo, you was just being lazy or whatever. Like that could have been it. But at the end of the day, I know I wasn't being lazy. It was just I was laser focused. And sometimes in relationships with being an entrepreneur, then again, she knew what she got into. right? So that's the other aspect of it, which is she knew that I was doing entrepreneur, but she had been with me for like 3 years. So I hear a lot of women say all the time, like, yo, after 3 years, dog, if it ain't popping, you got to do something else. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not what I'm doing, right? I don't want to do that. I want to follow what I'm doing. And so it caused, conflict.
So lessons learned, like moving forward, how do you better mitigate that with your relationships? Maybe not romantic, maybe romantic, but also like friendships. How do you still
love entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah,
it's mostly
because it sounds like you're laser focused on Bungee and on getting that A round and getting to where you're comfortable.
Oh yeah, definitely. But see, for me, it's like it's mostly romantic relationships because you have to, you have to kind of. You have to finesse both sides. See, with your homeboy, like with your boys, like they don't worry about all of that. Like friendship, like they don't worry. They know, okay, he's on his grind.
You can hit like 3 months later and it's like nothing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you cool. You know what I'm saying? You're like, what's good? Let's go get drinks. Let's whatever.
And basically relationships are work.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Right, the most work. So it's like, all right, how do I finesse both of these, these feelings? Like the feeling I have about Bungee versus, being in a romantic situation, but I've learned to do it a lot better than when I was 26.
And that's why I'm asking is like we like to give practical tips, and if people are out there trying to learn how to balance, like, do you have a practical tip on how you've been able to do better?
Yeah, I would just say you gotta turn it off, turn off the hustle, and if you can't turn it off, figure out a way to incorporate your significant other in between the time that you're hustling, so that way you can go back and be like I'll give you a perfect example. All right. So a couple months back, I was dating this young lady and I was laser focused in, right? But what I did is when I was doing all this stuff, I just went ahead and I was like, yo, let me buy tickets for this real quick, right? Let me just buy tickets. I'm not going to remember this shit, but I need to buy tickets. Now I have it and I can remember when it comes up and I'm like, oh shit, I got these tickets. Cool. I already handled it. It's not like I got to figure something out at the last minute to make something work. So I think incorporating that into, your hustle, it really helped me a lot. A lot. I can say that for a fact. And
I'm trying to think of a couple like well-known entrepreneurs who talk about their relationships. Like, for example, I know like Grant Cardone. Like if anybody's familiar with his books, like all he talks about is like go hard, go hard, go hard, go hard all the time. Yeah. But then he did talk about how a couple things when it comes to relationships. One is that he does make time. So like he says with his daughters, like every morning at a certain time, like he makes sure he has breakfast with them. He's the one who drops them at school. And then it's like we're all the way back on. But also he said having a wife, or in our case, like being in a relationship where that person does understand, like you do have to have, like if you're an entrepreneur, you do have to be with somebody who does get that. And I think it's helpful maybe if they kind of had their own thing going on as well. But they really just have to get it, but you do have to make that time too. So
agree.
You really do. Tony Robbins talks about that too, like with his wife Sage, and how they like had that imbalance because he's so much go, and she's kind of his balance. And so when he cheats and when they call it the zig and the zag, when he like cheats his like,
I was like,
no,
what?
not cheats on her, but whenever he cheats on his like entrepreneurial
so
grind.
bad. I was like, damn, she cool with that?
Nah, Doc. Whenever he cheats on his entrepreneurial grind, instead of being 100% laser focused all the time, they call it the zig and zag pattern. Like you zig so hard one way, you got to zag a little bit. Yeah. And then
agree.
You zig, and
I
then
think
you
that's
zag.
a perfect. I think that is like a perfect. Sort of reflection of what it takes to do something like that. But thankfully, like I said, I look laser focused on Bungee right now. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what
it's hard. I find as a business owner and just having the most to do, not even always the most to do, but just the most to think about, right? Like there's always all these different things that you're thinking about and that need to get done.
That's the most taxing part.
My brain don't turn off.
Yeah, like your brain's always on. So for me, like even trying to like go out on a date or hanging out with somebody consistently, like, or gets so old to me so fast. Like if it's, maybe I'm overstimulated by like my own stuff that like, yo, if they're not like doing the most, then I'm like, all right, like it just.
But see, okay, so to your point though, I think that in my experience, I think that is something that I see a lot and I've heard a lot from the female perspective as opposed to the male perspective, right? Because my perspective is this: I would rather you not be doing shit. Right, and the reason why, and not
gonna bother you all the time.
No. So here's the thing: if they do that, that's just clinginess. That's a whole nother issue. But if you're not like on the same level that I am, like if we go to grab coffee, if we whatever, it's a little bit more chill. Because I know my energy can be intense, like especially when I'm like doing something.
Yeah, maybe that's some button heads what people actually like.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like the person that's like, yo, chill no matter what. Like if you're chill no matter what, it kind of brings me down. So I can have these, have these dates.
Chill, but it's not as enticing. Like that's me just using that. Like I don't. Dang, I'm about to sound terrible. Like, I don't care about their life.
Open it up.
Come on,
What am I trying to say though? Is that like if nothing's going on with you that wants to compete with my thoughts of all this other stuff, then it's like I don't know. I don't care. I don't care about your nothing issues or your nothing that's happening.
No. I don't. And
we could talk. We could be cool. Maybe we could be friends.
I totally understand that. So maybe what I'm saying here is that. Okay, let's say you're going hard all the time, like 24/7, right? The time that you get to like relax and chill, right? Like,
oh, I see. Like you're really chilling.
Yeah, like you want you know what I'm saying? Like I can't be. I get what you're talking about. Like you are stimulated by somebody who is on your
doing
level,
their own shit.
Right. I totally get that. At the same time, like. Yo, I may think we got to balance it out. Like, what is this relationship? What are we looking for out of this?
True, because actually, when I have been with somebody who was like really extra as well, then I think I became the chill person. Honestly,
exactly.
So, it's a balance.
You know what I'm saying?
I became the chill person. I'm like, yo, can we chill for a second?
Yeah, just chill.
So I guess you're right. It's just that right balance, maybe.
It's that right balance.
And by the way, it's no right or wrong, right? So it's not like what works. It works in spaces and times. So certain times, it's exactly. Like that's really, that's life. That's life. You know what I mean?
And the ebbs and flows of life.
Life.
It's not an episode that she don't sing. So glad we got that.
EP.
But she coming soon. Visual album coming soon. It's not a mixtape. Mixtapes are poor. It's gonna be a full blown. It's just gonna be a visual album, honestly.
Visual album.
Yeah, this is hilarious.
But that's why we need our guests to freestyle so that I know who can feature or
exactly.
or not. You know what I mean?
Nothing. See, once y'all, so I'm competitive.
Like
so
Trey.
once y'all were like, yo, like you freestyling, I'm like, okay, all right.
Bro, I've already
Beat,
freestyled. Like I said, I've already freestyled.
But I didn't see it though. I didn't see either
one of y'all. You said
you've
been supporting the podcast. Why have you not seen it?
No, you said before now. You said before now. I'm thinking you mean
That's
like
true.
before, like today. I want to see you do it.
I'm going to take this moment to ask the listeners a question because Carlie and I were talking about it yesterday. We were like, what if like after our shows we did like almost not really behind the scenes segment, but just like, you know how in reality TV shows they put you in the room, they ask you stuff and they're like, yeah, this is what I really thought about this, or like, yo, really Trey came in here smelling like that, like what was going on, or like whatever it is. But like using that,
put me out like that. Go ahead.
No, Trey smells great.
Trey
smells
does
great.
take showers, right?
Thank you.
Trey smells
You
great.
take showers?
But that was just an example.
Okay.
You for real?
But like if we made like extra content like that, we were thinking about doing something like that for like part of the show for extra stuff. And I just thought about that because when Carlie did rap that one time, that was just like mad extra like before we really started doing the episode. So we might put some more of this weird stuff that Carlie does before and after the camera's rolling.
Likes to. So yeah, screenshot it or reply. Let us know. We have a cool little drop down menu and reply box on the website carliescouch.com.
Oh, yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, it has some pretty cool options. You can roast us, but only if it's quality. We don't support anything else.
Yeah, I'll laugh and I'll read it if it makes sense.
If it ain't quality, I'm gonna talk about you.
If it ain't funny, then don't do it. But to that though, Trey. So what do you need right now? What do you want? What's the next for you?
Damn. What do I need?
Mm-hmm. Like who are you looking to connect with? Like what do you?
Are y'all about to connect?
I mean, maybe.
How can we connect you if you don't know what you need?
Look, it's been a couple people who like have listened and be like, oh well, this person, this and this. Like you never know.
No. I trust me. I totally believe that. I would say what I need now is if I could get a super connector, right? Mm-hmm. People in the industry know what that is. Mm-hmm. That would be great. That would be awesome. The second thing would be a patent lawyer that's willing to work for equity, and that's kind of hard to get because sometimes they think conflict of interest and blah, blah, blah. But if I could get a patent lawyer that could basically be on deck ready for when we finish the SDK code for Droid and iOS.
Well, I might have somebody for that, actually.
See?
Okay, awesome.
A guy who I use to do like a lot of my startup contracts and stuff like that.
Okay.
See, it's that easy.
Might be down for that.
Okay, yeah. So, that, and then, I would love to have actually a female coder, right? A female developer, right? Because
Yeah.
you really?
Shout out Lakeisha.
Yeah.
No, I'm about to
Shout out
say. I was
Lakeisha.
like, I was like, hold on, you be doing that too? I'm like, what do you not
Lakeisha.
do?
Carlie.
Girl? Damn.
Code, apparently.
Yeah.
I say I take a long time.
That'd be amazing.
But
I mean,
would
I
be
could figure
cool.
it out.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome because then I could, once again, offer them equity. The biggest users of emojis are actually women. So I would, I would definitely be open to doing something.
It's good to have women
like
on
that.
your team because
Always.
it's just better perspectives.
And if you
I
look
mean,
at statistics,
that's
if you
a
look at
trap door.
statistics,
And
That's a trap
people
door.
like
but
look at that for
can't-
like the funding and stuff too.
And
So,
I
BBE.
agree.
But also, businesses that have women on the C-suite tend to perform better than businesses that don't.
Hey, look, I'm totally with it. My thing is this: you ain't gonna get no fight out of me on that. You ain't getting no fight out of me on
good.
that.
Your mother raised you well.
can't trap him.
So I want to close with, two things. The first one is, so you talked about what you need. Is there anything that people can hit you up about? Do you have a give? Like if people have questions
question.
about other things, like what's your give?
Yeah, for me, like I said before, is feasibility. So I'm open to anybody that wants to kind of explore an idea and see if it's feasible. I'm totally with that, especially from the our community. Like I'm totally down.
So
for
explain, just break it down a little bit even more in layman's term what feasibility is, because we've said that a few times.
Yeah.
But essentially, if somebody has an idea,
What is
then
it?
So feasibility is basically, can that idea be adapted in the real world to any industry that you're the industry you're trying to get into? Number one, and then is it scalable? Right, like these are the two questions.
When you say
have to-
scalable for people
like,
who
can
don't
you
have a
make this
business
a real
background, what do you mean?
business?
Right. Can you make money? And then on top of that, can you make more money on top of the money that you're making at the bottom level? Right. So it's like level 2, 3, 4, 5. That's basically scalability.
Trying to hit
like
level
is your
10?
idea
Me
not
too.
just you want to start a shop, but is your idea something that could be integrated with a whole nother brand?
Exactly.
And like
Yeah.
this is what's built upon like other things being built upon that foundation or whatever.
Exactly.
Mass
That's
market.
cool. And then
Yeah.
how can people connect with you, or where would you want people to connect with you?
I mean, they can connect with me. It's just Trey, Trey, at bungeesmart.com, BUNJESMART. And just, if you have a question, if you have anything, just let me know, right? 'Cause I'm open
LinkedIn,
for
social
it.
media?
Yep, LinkedIn, Trey Brown. Simple. It's only like four
about to say,
other Trey Browns.
400,000.
How you gonna
y'all?
find Trey Brown?
Yeah, but
about
y'all will see
400,000.
me.
Now you got to
Y'all
watch
see
the
me.
video to see what he looks like to compare it to the picture.
Exactly. So if you got any questions, just hit me up because like I said, I needed the help. I needed the assistance.
Yeah.
And now I think it's cool because you're starting to see this group of Black people that aren't so rigid, I guess, right, within the industry, and they want to help people. And so and that's no shade on the people that were here before, because it's always a position that somebody had to play before
And they
you.
fought hard to get there.
Right, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like
Real
somebody
hard.
had to play that position. But so you can't fault them for that. But in today's world, we got to share information and knowledge that actually makes sense, right? Like that's the most important piece of all of this. Is like, so if I can give you feasibility and teach you how to fish and not give you fish, then guess what? I have given you a skill for life. Right, so I feel like that's more important than money or any of that other stuff. So I'm open for it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm gonna call you tomorrow with some questions.
No, for real.
By all means.
I
But I
mean,
do charge. No, I'm just playing. I'm joking.
So I say, see, here we
That's
go.
real.
But
I'm
sounds like we
joking.
might have a workshop in the making. But it's enough success out here for all of us to make it. So I'm glad, to see amazing people supporting others. We always end with a question of the day. So I'm asking Trey, Lex, what do I say that's better left unsaid?
Answer that.
Or what do you say? Think about it in your own head.
Yeah, how would you answer that question?
Damn, I gotta go first.
Yep.
Can you
Because
repeat?
you didn't freestyle.
Can you repeat the question?
So-
And I'm supposed to just give an answer to this.
Yep.
Okay.
What do you say that's better left unsaid? Think about you for yourself.
It is hard. Let me think.
Oh my God.
Do
Now I know it's just like I'm thinking like, damn, what's
Or it could be
something
like a
that-
type of.
Yeah, a
Thing,
thing. Or maybe
maybe.
a lesson you've learned. What did you used to say?
Oh hell
That's
yeah.
better
Okay, I
than
had one the other day. I had one the other day.
You ain't my real girl
This
though.
might
Damn.
I'm gonna do a PC one. So this was I was talking to a young lady, and one day I said to her that I caught a flight, and the I'm not going to use it because she said three things, but I said my server at the restaurant when I was talking to her, because we were talking about going to this restaurant, and she corrected me, and y'all tell me if I'm tripping on this or not, but she was like, no, it's your waiter or your waitress. And I was like, okay, so I guess that's something,
terminology?
Yeah, that I should not be saying server. I thought server was cool, but I don't know.
Because sometimes they say, I'll be your server this evening.
Yeah,
exactly.
And in my head, server is gender neutral, whereas waiter or waitress is not, and for people who don't identify.
Yeah.
But I also used to be a server, so for me, but that's a personal thing. It's a personal thing, so I can't tell her
now,
how to
if people
feel.
are rude with the server or the waiter or waitress, then I'm like,
ooh, done with you.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
weird.
I mean, I think that would be the only thing. I mean, but if that's the best
Lex,
one.
what you
Carlie?
got? Oh, no, I asked you first, Lex. I said Trey and Lex.
We're going in order. We're going this way.
Then we
Go
should have
ahead.
started with the best. Okay, so
Oh.
You did.
me, clearly. So what I would say is, what do I say that's better left unsaid is, I think sometimes I qualify whenever I ask for things. Like I give people a way out whenever I'm speaking about what I want or what I need. I'm like, hey, I really need help going on feasibility. But if you want, like, if you're not
You do
available,
that.
that's okay. I do that a lot. I used to over apologize. I don't do that. But now I notice instead of over apologizing, I over qualify and kind of give people an out when I don't really need to.
Yeah.
I
don't
have
get an
noticed
answer.
that. Because then I'll get frustrated sometimes. Not for real frustrated, but I'll get kind of frustrated because it's like, all right, I feel like I have to always make the executive decision, but then I feel like I don't want to feel like it's just me like coming up with everything all the time.
Yeah.
Because she'll be like, oh, we could do this. And it's like, well, but tell me what you want to do.
Exactly.
And then now I feel like I got to be asshole to be like,
Yeah, I'm a
choose
work in
something.
progress. I'm a work in progress. It's like asking me what I want to eat.
That's a good answer, though. That's
Thank
a very
you.
self-aware answer, too.
Yeah, y'all getting deep with them.
That's a good answer, Carlie. What I say that's better left unsaid. I feel like I had something a second ago, and now I forgot after yours.
I'm just over here laughing because she does not seem like the type that has many of these moments where it's like what I should not have said. It's like, no, I'm gonna say what I want to say, and there ain't nothing wrong with that, by the way. But
I'm good. I'm good at speaking my mind.
yeah.
For me, I'm not sure how to all the way explain it, but for me, something that does not need to be said that I say is extra commentary, extra additions to a conversation that don't lead to a progression. So let's say
I get what you're saying.
if you said, "Oh man, this didn't work," and I say instead of, "Okay, well, what can we do that's going to work?" I say, "Yeah, well, you already knew this and this and this, so why did we like having that extra?" It's like, all right, that doesn't move the conversation forward. That doesn't move towards solutions.
It doesn't add value.
Feeling like I need to like make you understand like why something instead of moving forward with it.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
real
so
too.
y'all making me feel bad. I got to redo mine.
Come on.
I got to redo mine now. At this point, it's like,
He's circling back.
So now it's like, yeah, just okay, you're right, and just move forward. No, I told you so. It was none of that stuff.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think for me, it's like being overly logical sometimes in conversations.
Okay.
And sometimes you need to be empathetic.
Yeah,
Sometimes you gotta be a little
like
soft.
sometimes because it's like,
example.
all right, like what am I? Like somebody would say something to me, and I'll be like, well, but it just makes sense if you just do this or do that. Sometimes people ain't trying to hear that shit. Like they just want to they want to be heard. Yeah, but it's like I'm not the best with that in terms of like figuring out because I'm trying to solve the problem.
Yep.
Right. And
I'm
so
with you.
because I'm trying to solve the problem, sometimes I can come off as, and I heard that so many times too. Like I don't want to. Just trying to solve the problem. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do?
And if somebody did that to you, though, you aren't offended or you don't feel no kind of way if somebody were to be like that. Okay.
Nah, because I'm like, you know what? Like at this point, like, if I have a problem, right, and I'm trying to solve it, then, can you solve it if I can't? So
that's real. Something that helped me with that is asking people what they need. Like if I came to you, I was like, man, I need to tell you this thing. They're like, okay, do you want me to try to help you, or you just want me to listen, like to hold space?
Since we had that episode where you said that, I've been doing that too.
Yeah, and it helps.
Well,
let
me ask you this: how often?
Work.
Because I have a problem with remembering shit like that. Like how to do that consistently in my conversations. So how do you remember like how to do that each time it comes up? Like it's like, oh, I know I'm gonna use it this time.
I ask like people will text me and be like, hey, are you busy? And I'm like, okay, and they'll call like, hey, what's up? And they start saying like, okay, before you get started, like, do you want me to hold space for you, or is this a
It's
conversation?
become
Do you
okay
want
for you.
feedback? Do you want
Okay,
advice?
no, see, I
what
like
is
how you
this?
just said it. Do you want me to hold space for you?
Yeah,
Yo, that's boss.
But that
I
keeps
like
me
that.
from like my brain overworking, like trying to solve a problem. I'm trying to solve a problem that the person doesn't even want solved. They just want to be heard and understood and feel loved.
Yeah.
And I can do that without having my brain work overtime because my brain is already trying to fix it. But if my brain knows it doesn't have to, I can just listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not listen. No,
It's
I'm
all,
just playing.
it's all weird to me because to me, I'm like, this is a waste of my time. Like to hold space, so that's hard for me too. Because I'm like,
I'm
all
with you
right,
on
like
that.
listen, this is what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
Like,
feel you.
or let's think about this, or so how can we make this money, or like.
So we got 3 problem solvers in the room. That's what we're saying
we
right
do.
now.
Yeah,
Right?
but Carlie's
Okay.
more like empathetic and sensitive, I think, with speaking to people.
All right.
And
got
so
it. Yeah.
For sure.
that is important to have those qualities. And I think again, kind of like how I said before with
Right.
the people that I might date or deal with, I tend to be a balancer. So if somebody around me is super problem solver, then I'm always like, all right, but I'll be that person, or I'm going to be super problem solver. So I think I'm kind of good at being a chameleon. And I just like.
Yeah. Mine
Find
just
a way.
I don't want to be too. I don't want us to both be like real soft and quiet, and I don't want us to both be here trying to scream over each other. So like I'm just like, all right.
And that's what's
listen.
funny in our
Yeah.
friendships is because we both like tend to do that with each other. So sometimes we're like this. Mm-hmm. But now I know. Just make the decision. Tell Lex what to do. She like that.
Yeah, I do. I knew he was gonna
You
say
heard
something
it
dirty
first.
before the end of this.
You heard it first.
Every time,
Oh my God.
every time, yo. Carlie can't get enough.
You did say that you like to be shot at. So I'm just saying,
exactly.
like,
You took notes, too.
I can't act like I didn't hear
Exactly.
that
See,
shit.
Trey
I
heard
ain't
you.
gonna lie.
Y'all need to watch the
I
video
ain't
because I
gonna
showed
No,
me the
see,
face.
y'all projecting because that's what y'all thinking about. So
That's what she said.
With that,
Okay. How we both had a
Exactly. Yeah. So y'all know what the real
I'm
deal
just saying
is.
how we both had that.
That's the real. Okay. Well,
Trey, we appreciate you.
We appreciate you,
being
man.
on the
I appreciate you
episode.
guys.
Trey at Bungee Smart.
I'm gonna re-listen because I heard a couple of things. I'm like, I'm gonna look into myself honestly.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage listeners to reach out to Trey. Not with no random questions you can Google, but if you have some heard him say something about his journey. If you caught some other we did it moment where you're like, yo, but how did you do it? Yeah, hit him up.
And feasibility for ideas.
Definitely.
So thank y'all. Have a wonderful day. Happy Monday. Screenshot Carlie's Couch, hashtag, tag us, let us know what you think.
Carlie's
And
couch.
you gotta tag Trey too. What's Trey's Instagram?
What's your Insta?
We're gonna put
Fine,
it in
it's
the
just
was it Tech Chef Curry? Is that what you said?
Tech Chef Curry. No underscores or anything.
Nah, none of that. That's complicated, man. Keep
You're
it
right.
simple.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes too, so
Y'all-
y'all know.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.